Tonight, standoffs, showdowns, threats of more protests, and now a deal that will see crab harvesters out on the water. That's Story Plus.
There's been a guilty plea in the homicide of Chantel John. Kirk Keeping pleaded guilty to second-degree murder this morning in Grand Falls, Windsor. That's Story tonight on Here and Now.
We were getting phone calls back and forth. They are looking for someone to take over the burial process and expenses. And there was nobody.
Corpses ending up in freezer units outside the Health Sciences Centre. Advocates say they want to see government make changes now.
I think it's good that the pressure is on. It's too bad we got to this point, but it's important that it's there.
Ahead of tomorrow's federal budget, housing advocates are hoping to see announcements that will create actual change, while the switch from a St. John's hotel to transitional housing continues.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. More than 5 years after the death of Chantel John, her killer has finally pleaded guilty. Kirk Keeping, whose trial has been delayed over and over, changed his plea this morning. Here and Now's Troy Turner has our top story.
Guilty pleas entered this morning in Grand Falls, Windsor Supreme Court include second-degree murder, aggravated assault, which was the original attempted murder charge, as well as uttering threats and 2 breaches of court conditions. He appeared by video, as did his lawyer, Mark Gruchy. After the pleas, Crown Attorney Karen O'Reilly read out the statement of facts. It got a little emotional at times for the family, friends of Chantel John as they listened quietly to details of this gruesome and horrific incident. The court heard how Keeping found John, his ex at the time, at the home of a family member in Conn River. He attacked her with a knife outside, and she fled into the home. He followed, assaulted a family member with a knife inside before finding John and attacking her again. In the process, he threatened another family member who tried to intervene. John managed to escape to a neighbor's house. That's where she died. Police found Keeping near Milltown, where he tried to take his own life. He was sent to hospital with serious injuries. Today is the end of 5 long years. Keeping repeatedly caused delays in the case. Family and friends complained and protested. Today in the court they were quiet. There's a sense the end is near. Chantel John would have turned 34 last month. A pre-sentence report has been requested, and then that takes about 8 weeks to complete. Following that, the judge will hear sentencing submissions from both the Crown and defense attorneys. That will be held on June 20th. Troy Turner, CBC News, Grand Falls, Windsor.
Well, after intense and sometimes violent protests and more than a week's delay, snow crab harvesters are heading out on the water. Here they are, getting ready at a wharf in St. John's. This comes after the FFAW and the Association of Seafood Producers reached a deal last night. They've agreed to $3 a pound for the entire 2024 season. That's up from $2.60 a pound. Both sides are also able to file for reconsideration if the market price goes above $6.50 US. And there's also a promise of an independent review of actual crab sales at the end of the season, and that could prompt settlement payments to harvesters if the market has gone up. In the meantime, though, harvesters, their union, seafood producers, and government all seem to agree it's a good deal.
$3 a pound is a lot better than what we got last year. You know, it's still, we got to rebuild our markets. We got, it's a long ways to go yet. You still got Russia dumping crab into the markets. We're starting on time, which is good. It'll take the pressure off the plants, right?
Well, I wouldn't have signed it if we were not okay with it. We have a responsibility to rural Newfoundland, to the communities in which we operate. We have plants in this province that are the lifeblood of communities. Whether it is in Bay de Verde, Bonavista, in Corner Brook, on the Northern Peninsula, in Labrador, these communities rely on these plants. And both from an employee, a plant worker perspective, from municipal taxes to sponsoring local, sports and communities. I mean, this is one of the most significant economic drivers in rural Newfoundland.
Long process, and what do you make of it? I don't know. What do anybody make of it? Look, we gained a lot of ground. Our Are we there where we want to be? No, but we're getting there. That's pretty much how I got this sized up now. You know, we're getting there, and we made great strides this year.
And we'll hear more from John Efford Jr. and the Association of Seafood Producers later in the show. Well, some seniors advocates say the province can fix the overcrowded morgue at the Health Sciences Centre if government policy aligns itself with the rising cost of living. Bodies are being stored in freezer units in an alleyway on hospital property, and advocates say the real problem isn't about storage, it's about support for seniors. Here now's Mike Moore reports.
This storage container in St. John's is filled with bodies. That's because the main morgue is full. Some of them are seniors who didn't have the money to pay for their funerals and whose families couldn't pick up the expenses. Now, advocates want to see change.
At the end of your life, when your income is about $1,600, there's not much you can do to save $4,000 or $6,000 in order to die in dignity and be buried.
Muhammad Abdallah's senior support organization can't legally claim bodies or arrange for funeral services, which means many of their clients can end up in one of those freezers permanently.
It is a big concern, and I didn't think it was that big, that we have actually freezers outside of the hospital. I was appalled when I heard that.
Families in Newfoundland and Labrador on income support can get up to $2,300 to help with cremation or burial costs. That figure hasn't changed in nearly 2 decades. On the federal level, the Canada Pension Plan death benefit is a one-time payment of $2,500 to the estate or family, but that figure hasn't changed since 1998. Other provinces are facing a similar situation. Ontario, for example, has seen a 170% increase in unclaimed bodies since 2019. The national advocacy group Funeral Service Association of Canada says it's time to fix that problem.
The conversations that the Funeral Service Association of Canada has tried to have over the years with the federal government has fallen on deaf ears, really.
Jeff Weaver says funeral costs can range from $2,000 all the way up to $12,000. Advocates hope Tuesday's federal budget will address some of their concerns. In a statement to CBC News, a spokesperson from the Department of Finance says they can't comment. Either way, any amendments to the CPP, which is a form of support, will have to be done in conjunction with the provinces. Mike Moore, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, meanwhile, this story, first reported by CBC last month, landed in the House of Assembly again. Here's how Seniors Minister Paul Pike responded.
Last year, in 2023, there were 360 funerals funded by our department, with a total cost of $2,800 per funeral. We are now in the process of reviewing the rates. We're reaching out, as a matter of fact, within the next week or so to funeral home operators, so we can discuss with them what they feel are fair and reasonable rates.
Well, Justice Minister John Hogan is facing calls for his resignation over comments he made asserting that lawyers don't re-traumatize sexual assault survivors in court. Now, Hogan has apologized for what he said a number of times, but PC and NDP members aren't satisfied. Here now's Mark Quinn reports.
I'd just like to take this opportunity right now to withdraw my comments in response to a point of order on March 12th from the member for Torngat Mountains. And not only would I like to withdraw them, I publicly said some of those statements are incorrect, and I'd like to publicly apologize again for those incorrect statements. Thank you.
It wasn't the first time Hogan has apologized for his comments on March 12th. That's when he responded in the House of Assembly to a petition calling for justice reforms to better serve survivors of sexual assault. Hogan said, quote, "Lawyers in this province are not re-traumatizing sexual assault victims. It's actually impossible for that to happen." Despite numerous apologies from Hogan in media interviews and in the House today, the PC's justice critic wants him to resign.
I am not satisfied that he is qualified or has the experience and understanding to hold this very powerful position as Minister of Justice and Attorney General. He should reflect on this, and the Premier should look at this as well and see if it's in the best interests of the people that he remain. I believe it is not.
The NDP's leader is also questioning whether Hogan should continue to be the Justice Minister.
Obviously a junior minister in a very important portfolio, and maybe there needs to be someone else in that role who's got a bit more experience and an appreciation, or at least an understanding of what actually happens in the court system.
Hogan said he's not thinking about stepping down.
No, I didn't consider resigning, but I did a lot of soul searching about my comments and why I made them, what I meant to say, and more importantly, what effect that comments I make as a minister can have on people in this province.
Hogan said the Justice Department is looking at reforms to make court proceedings less traumatic for victims. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, meanwhile, a sexual assault trial continued in St. John's this morning. The defense for 72-year-old Robert Regular began calling witnesses who worked at his law office at the time of the alleged offenses. Regular is accused of 4 counts of sexual assault and 1 count of sexual interference. Today, Regular's office manager and former accountant took the stand. The accountant was questioned about contacting the complainant after she failed to pay her legal bill in 2007. Now, she had previously testified Regular told her not to worry about paying. The accountant said she was ultimately told by Regular not to seek payment anymore. More defense testimony is expected tomorrow. Well, the Transportation Safety Board is investigating after a plane overran the runway at the Goose Bay Airport on Saturday. The TSB has sent a team to Central Labrador to investigate the incident, according to a press release. The plane was a Beechcraft 200 Super King Air, registered to Manitoba-based Keewatin Air. The release says the TSB will assess what happened, but it didn't say whether anyone was injured. End Homelessness St. John's is taking over a former hotel to help support homeless people. The province announced in January that it would lease the former Comfort Inn to provide transitional housing. End Homelessness St. John's will now operate that facility. It will provide health care and social supports, as well as a bed and warm meals. The transitional facility hopes to have people moving in soon and will also help them secure long-term housing.
And it's not just, okay, this person needs somewhere to stay tonight. But they don't need just somewhere to stay tonight. They need that, obviously, a warm, safe place to stay, but they also need help to get them to the next level in the housing continuum, where they can actually sign a lease with a landlord, they get back to work, they get help with whatever issues they're facing to get them to that point. That's the key. That was what was identified by End Homelessness St. John's and our community partners.
Hi there, Heather in for Ashley this week. Look at these gorgeous highs today across the interior of the island. 12, 13 degrees for Deer Lake, Badger, Gander, Twillingate, Terra Nova, and here in St. John's as well. 12 degrees for Happy Valley, Goose Bay, and out to the coast in Cartwright as well. But cooler temperatures for northern Labrador and in the west as well, and cooler temperatures for the southwest coast and west coast and along the south coast. And right now we've got some rain working our way along the southwest coast, up to the west coast and across the south coast as well. And what that is going to do is bring some showers or drizzle tonight for pretty well the entire island. We could see some freezing rain for the south coast of Labrador tonight as well. Tomorrow, Tuesday, the rain, drizzle, and the fog that comes with it is going to lift. We could see some sun in some areas, some clouds still in others. Taking a look at the future tracker with that rain working across the entire island, with that pink stuff being the freezing rain. We'll talk about amounts later on Here and Now.
Thanks, Heather. Well, it's voting day for residents in the Fogo Island Cape Friels district. Polling stations opened at 8 a.m. and they're still open until 8 p.m. Dana Blackmore is the candidate for the Liberal Party. Jim Gill is running for the NDP and Jim McKenna for the PC Party. The by-election was called after the district's former MHA Derek Bragg died from tongue cancer in January. It's the province's second by-election of the year after the by-election for Conception Bay East Bell Island in January. Well, the federal budget drops tomorrow, and Justin Trudeau's government is dealing with a number of problems people want to see action on. Among those, the cost of living and the national housing crisis might be the biggest. Here's what some Newfoundlanders and Labradorians want to see from Ottawa tomorrow.
Difficult, but it's like I said, the cost of living is very high, and we're robbed blind. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't know really what the government can do about the cost of living, actually, okay? Because, in my opinion, it is all corporate greed, and that's what it is. I mean, profits have gone up significantly for the big companies, and we're paying the price for it.
I'd like for the government to address this wasteful spending. I mean, if you look at the news these days, there's money galore going out the door. There doesn't seem to be anything to address the cost of living, especially for seniors. So I'd like for the budget to address that.
I'll say housing, which has been at the heart of the federal government and the provincial government, as well as the territorial government for a couple of years now. I have read about the national housing strategy that the federal government has, been releasing funds to address the housing situation. So in as much as cost of living has gone up, and every Canadian is kind of raising concern, I think the government has been kind of responsive in the policies that they come up with, the programs to be able to address it. And some of these things, it's not like immediate response, right? It takes time.
A very hard time keeping up. I'm also in school at George Brown College in Toronto, and it's really hard living on my own, going to school. I have to work an extra job and everything like that, so it's been really hard.
I'd like for them to keep the cost of food down and to keep the cost of fuel down, if at all possible.
And how would that help you?
Well, you'd see a lot of savings going to Costco and to the grocery store for sure.
I want them to deal with reality. I want them not to be the people in the People's Cross who are blaming that side of the table to this side of the table. Or I want them to see actual people who are actually hurting.
Well, now to some sports news. Team Goujiu has owned yet another curling championship, making it Brad Goujiu's 15th Grand Slam win in total.
Now they got to work the curl.
Got to touch it. Curl.
Got to get it to rub off the rock. And will it stop? It does.
Well, that was the scene when Goujiu beat Team Returnes from Italy 7-6 in Toronto last night. The teams were tied at 6, and Goujiu had to curl into the house surrounded by Team Returnes' stones. Team Goujiu was fresh off their second place finish at the World Championship last week. Yesterday's competition was the final event of the Grand Slam curling calendar. The St. John's-based team will get to play in front of a home crowd when they return next season at the Mary Brown Centre as it hosts the Grand Slam of curling in November. And for the second straight year, members of the Newfoundland Rogues offered up a basketball clinic in Shahijit. It's a big win for the Eagles, who officially formed last year as the first ever basketball team at the Shahijit Innu School. The Rogues sent coach Jerry Williams along with some players to the Big Land last week, where they spoke with Labrador Morning host John Gowdy.
I can feel the sun.
The warm welcome, that blew me away. We walk into the school, everyone wants a high five, everyone wants to give you hugs. Like, the welcome by itself was amazing.
For me to walk in the gym and see those guys' eyes light up, and they just want to hear what I have to say about the game of basketball. They want me to teach them. They want me to train. They want to see how good these guys are. That says a lot within itself. I'm from Florida, man. Like, just to be here in Labrador and have kids just want you around and want to learn from you is nothing to compare to it. Like, it's very amazing. Good job, guys. To come back here and see the guys again and see their progress and just see how they're really, really still enjoying the game and making them, want to go to school and be really good. And a lot of guys yesterday was talking to me about college, which is, that's an amazing thing. One guy told me he wanted to go to Duke, and I'm just like, man, that goal is very high, but you can reach it if you say it, you can reach it. So totally different compared to last year from where they were, because, they were all scared and just really not knowing what to expect. This year, man, we walk in the gym, they know the routines, they know the stretching routines, no questions asked. It's just like I've been coaching them a whole year.
It's good to see that these kids actually want to learn and want to get better, stuff like that. It was good to see, I had a kid yesterday come ask me about like some post moves and stuff like that, and it's just something you wouldn't have really seen growing up, like a kid asking about post moves. Someone's probably going to teach them, but like they probably don't understand when to use this move and when to use that move and stuff like that. So it's good to be able to break it down for him and to have him actually want to know about it.
I see their love for the game. I see the passion in their eyes. I mean, I see how much they want to really be here. How much they really want to hoop. For me, it's just like, I enjoy it. Like, it makes teaching it even fun. Like, it makes it more fun teaching kids like that, yeah.
To me now, it seems like they're more for each other. They all want to do well. They all want to play hard. And like I explained to them, and I tell my guys the same thing, talent could only take you so far, because nowadays it's not like when I was playing 100 years ago. Nowadays everyone is talented. Everyone has special talent. So it's the effort, the effort that you put into it, the hard work that you put into it when your coaches are not around and things of that nature. So that's what I tell those guys, and I could tell that they love the game and they really been playing the basketball without the coaches around, which is always a good thing. So yeah, man, that's just, I could tell that they really want to play basketball and want to win for each other.
In some ways, I guess he's having his final show.
Well, coming up, an evening in honor of Rick Boland, featuring old friends and, of course, musical performances to remember a provincial icon.
And in the weather, we're going to talk about rain amounts, but temperatures starting to back off now from today's highs. But over the weekend, we had some new records. We'll talk about those too.
This weather update is brought to you by the Healthcare Foundation Home Lottery. The early bird prize deadline is midnight Friday, May 10th. Order tickets now at hcfhomeLottery.ca.
Well, it's really feeling like spring now, Heather. Today was gorgeous and the weekend was fabulous. Loving it.
Yeah, it was. And it was warm but wet in a lot of places. And we talked about some records last week in Labrador, and we have some again to start out this week. So let's talk about those. So today, yesterday. Oh, the days, getting them all mixed up. Cartwright, 13.4 yesterday, breaking the old record of 11.6. That was set back in 1994. That's almost 2 degrees. Hopedale tied its record. That was set in 84. Mary's Harbor, 12.7 degrees yesterday on Sunday, smashing a record of 7.3 degrees. That's almost 5.5 degrees set back in 2004. Let's take a look at our future tracker, though, to see what is to come and is happening now. We've got some rain starting to move across the southwest coast up to the west coast and even as far east as the Burin Peninsula. And as we head towards midnight tonight, this is just going to move across the island for the most part. We're going to see about 2 millimeters of rain, and we could even see some freezing rain into the Straits area. And tomorrow morning, you could wake up to either a flurry or a shower if you are in central Labrador. Taking a look at our temperatures tonight, 3-4 degrees in the east. Like I said, about 2 millimeters generally for many places in the island. But if you're along a southern facing coast, say Burin, Conagra, you could see 5 to 10 millimeters, tapering off to about 5 for the Burgeo area and then 2 to 4 for the southwest coast. As we get up into Labrador, our temperatures are going to drop back to freezing or below. 0 in Happy Valley Goose Bay, -5 for Lab West and for Nain. Generally, our winds tonight are going to be southwest or southerly, possibly even westerly, 20 to 40, but a little bit lighter here for western areas of the province. Taking a look at the rainfall amount, you see that general 2 to 4 millimeters for many places on the island, the 5 to 10 for the south coast. And through tomorrow, this time tomorrow, we could get a bit more of an accumulation for the Avalon Peninsula, southern Avalon there as well. Taking a look at our future trackers when we wake up tomorrow, we'll have generally cloudy skies for Labrador. You could see a flurry in Lab West. When you wake up, you could see snow or rain for central Labrador, cloud for the coast. This system pushing eastward. So if you're in eastern parts, you could be transitioning over to cloudy skies for the most part, and chance of showers sticking with us really for the Avalon as we head through lunchtime as well and into the evening. That chance of showers really just brushing back across parts of the island there tomorrow. Taking a closer look there now, you see the 5 to 10 millimeters there tomorrow for the southern Avalon at 6 degrees. So cooler on the southern Avalon than it will be on the northeast Avalon tomorrow, where we could accumulate about 2 to 4. For Bonavista tomorrow, we could see some sun and cloud after the rain goes away at 10 degrees. And for Marystown, we stick with the gray cloud and 10 degrees for you folks. Moving on into central, still nice warm temperatures getting into the teens for Gander and Grand Falls, Windsor with a chance of showers there. Cooler for the Conagra Peninsula tomorrow. And as we get back over to the west coast, it'll be warm in the Humber Valley. Look at this, but cooler for the south coast and for the rest of the west coast, where we could have some more showers. On up into the northern peninsula, we could see some showers there tomorrow. 3 to 9 degrees and 5 to 9 for the Straits and 6 degrees. You could see some sunshine there in Cartwright, which looks lovely tomorrow. Getting back up into the double digits for Happy Valley Goose Bay, where their temperatures anywhere between 2 and 5 degrees. For the rest of Labrador, could see a flurry though in Lab West. Now, for the rest of the week, it looks like we could have rain or snow in the forecast on Thursday, but we'll talk about that a little later.
Thanks, Heather. While most knew him as a comedic actor, Rick Boland was a larger-than-life figure across both the province's arts and political scenes. Boland died at the age of 70 in January, and he was celebrated at an event in St. John's yesterday.
Today is going to be a wonderful celebration of Rick. In some ways, I guess this is, he's having his final show, it seems like, in so many ways, because it's a little bit of a retrospective from the people that he worked with so well over the years, you know. And it's just nice to see these lovely little clips of the videos there from the young days and stuff. I mean, he just was a mad, alive, creative person in so many ways, with wonderful big vision and ability, and such an ability to really resonate with the hearts of people. I can't begin to tell you how many people have sent messages or said to me in person, he gave us so many laughs over the years, you know? And yeah, so kind of a little mixture of looking at his body of work, or as Rick would always say to me, his canon of work.
It's a celebration of Rick's life because Rick was so many things to so many people. You know, he involved multitudes. You know, he was a historian, an archivist. He was, you know, he was interested in everything. Of course, really, how we mostly know him as a brilliant actor. Rick was he seemed more grown up, even though he was a little bit younger than me, and so he had such oomph and such zest for life, and could put together a dinner party at the drop of a hat, you know, and just knew everything. And I remember the time he brought the taxi driver in when we were ordering late night booze. I thought right into my bedroom. I was a little taken aback by that, but never mind, we drank the bottle anyway.
Incredible rapport with the audience. And I just remember one time being there, and there were people next to me who I never knew before, and they just started laughing, and they said, oh my God, that's Rick, you know?
He stepped up and started doing public presentations about being a gay man. That was not an easy thing to do in 1970. In today's world, we think, but in 1970, it was tough.
Roby used to say that if he was the first to go.
Body of work that this man that was Rick Doss generated, it's just really incredible. And to do all that, and you're only just 70, you know?
Last drink at his memory.
Well, the Torbay Volunteer Fire Department celebrated half a century over the weekend. It's one of the busiest volunteer departments in the province, responding to well over 2,000 calls a year in Torbay and Flat Rock. The department started in 1974 after a fire ripped through a home in the community, killing 7 children. At the time, firefighters had to come from St. John's and didn't make it in time. And since then, the department has seen over 200 male and female volunteers. This year, the department honored several firefighters for their life-saving efforts, including 3 firefighters who helped save the life of David Hannums, who went into cardiac arrest last year. 2 others were honored for taking a person who had gone into the ocean to safety. The title of Firefighter of the Year went to Kent Abbott.
I want to see some practical solutions, not slogans, but good policy that's going to help Newfoundlanders and Labradorians.
Time is money. So when we talk about lowering the cost of doing business, it's so much more than us saying no more new taxes.
Well, coming up, we'll hear from both union and business representatives, as well as a local advocate on what they hope to see in tomorrow's federal budget. Well, tomorrow is budget day in Ottawa, but the federal government has already pledged billions of dollars in funding to tackle housing issues in this country. One advocate here says these new programs are long overdue, but he hopes to see even more commitments in tomorrow's budget.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear that housing is the central priority for the federal government. You're right, there's been many announcements. It's hard to keep track of it all. I was chatting with some folks and colleagues of mine around the country, and there's a consensus that even just in the last 6 to 12 months, there's been more funding announced from the federal government than any federal government since the mid-90s. So it's long overdue. It was a role that the federal government had been playing for a significant period of time. And now it's just playing catch up. So that's what we're seeing is housing front and center of the federal budget. And this is something I think, Newfoundland and Labrador needs to be aware of, but also for Atlantic Canada. We see the federal government, working directly with municipalities in a way that we haven't seen before, whereas typically this responsibility was the provinces. So we have to build strong linkages between the federal government at a provincial level and at a municipal level to make sure we're coordinating and to make sure this province is getting its fair share of the funds that have been announced. There's a broad focus on home ownership, on the rental market, and on homelessness, but it's kind of linking those together in a way that keeps people housed in the interim while the housing is being developed. So something that we would like to see, something I think is important is things we've been advocating for with our federal colleagues has been a homelessness prevention and housing benefit fund. So keeping people housed when they're in a moment that's tough is a lot cheaper through a housing benefit, for example, than having them experience homelessness and then find their way back to housing. So those are big things. I think the timelines, you're right. Like how realistic is it going to take? How long will it take realistically to build housing here in this province, but around the country, since there's been so many announcements being made, federally, provincially, and municipally. I think it's good that there's political pressure to do more for housing. And across all levels of government, all orders of government need to be involved. They need to be working together. And, the federal government can take a real leadership role in facilitating those relationships. So I think it's good that the pressure is on. It's too bad we got to this point, but it's important that it's there and we're seeing the types of investments being made.
Well, housing is also an important issue for some other groups in this province who are keeping an eye on tomorrow's federal budget. I also checked in with the heads of the Atlantic Chamber of Commerce and the province's biggest public sector union to find out the top priorities on their list.
We're watching for, and obviously more so with a federal budget, because there's obviously been a provincial, and we look at the broader issues that would affect every Newfoundlander and Labradorian, and then obviously our members, issues around affordability. We know out there, not only workers, but the average Newfoundland Labradorian Canadians are struggling. So what will this budget do to help with that? Assistance to struggling families are not causing inflation. What's causing inflation, in our opinion, is those large corporations that are supersizing prices, and that way is having a negative effect. So what can we do, not putting our hand in the pocket of the average Newfoundlander Labradorian, but putting our hands in the pocket of big business and taking something back. So something probably around taxation for the large corporations, not for the middle class, not for low income. So in that area, some of the things, Carolyn, that we've heard so far in the pre-announcements around support for kids in school, a food type program, we're fully supportive of. NAPE actually supported a program here in Newfoundland and Labrador over 25 years ago, and it's grown here, the breakfast clubs in Newfoundland and Labrador that benefits children. So those type things, like there's good things. I'm not into seeing people out there making commentary. I want to see some practical solutions, not slogans, but good policy that's going to help Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, and in return, help working people in Newfoundland, Labrador, and those that are disadvantaged.
So the Atlantic Chamber of Commerce submitted a pre-budget, and we had 3 areas that we identified that we hope to see movement on. They were housing and labor. And at a first glance, you might be like, housing and labor, how do they go together? Well, truly, when a small business needs talent and labor, that individual needs somewhere to live. So there's a lot of people looking for work and there's people hiring, but how do we align and get better prepared? So that's a little bit about what we're hoping to see, maybe some new programs and services around alignment when it comes to talent and providing the right talent and removing barriers so that our talent can move from one end of Canada to the other without facing barriers. The second one is around the cost of doing business and hoping that we'd see no tax increases and that government becomes more efficient with the programs they're going to roll out in the budget. Time is money. So when we talk about lowering the cost of doing business, it's so much more than us saying no more new taxes. It's also about creating efficiencies so that business owner can spend more time on being productive and growing our GDP versus being caught up in red tape. And the third and final area for us is around supports for SMEs. 98% of businesses in Canada are small to medium sized, and we need supports to help them get to where they need to go. The other thing, what I think I want to see is an uneventful day. Business needs predictability and certainty. So a budget day that comes without much excitement and no surprises is actually a really good day for Canadian businesses because they can carry on doing what they're doing. So planning for an uneventful budget day, certainty and predictability.
Returning now to one of our top stories, the FFAW struck a deal last night that will see snow crab harvesters back on the water. It's the province's biggest fishery, but a dispute over price with the Association of Seafood Producers led harvesters to refuse to fish for more than a week. That deal, which includes a floor price of $3 a pound for the season, overrides the decision of the province's price-setting panel, but both sides agree it's a good move.
Look, we gained a lot of ground. Are we there where we want to be? No, but we're getting there. That's pretty much how I got this sized up now. You know, we're getting there, and we made great strides this year. Like we got our free enterprise issue. We got that done. That's going to need some more work in the future, like everything else that do. We got a price now that was taken away from the panel decision, which would have seen us getting very low base price and almost impossible formula to gain anything on the market with the market prices.
How did you do that? I mean, you should have been locked in, right? The panel price setting, the panel decided on the Association of Seafood Producers price, but yet that was changed. That formula, you would have gotten less money. So you managed to break through on that.
We did, yeah, we did. We decided that, not decided, we knew it wasn't realistic. It wasn't a price that we could fish for, and we decided we weren't fishing for it, so we had it changed.
And seafood producers gave in on that.
Seems to be.
Because at the beginning, I know that, the three things you were talking about was, things like outside buyers, more competition, and more capacity. Yeah. How do you think you fared overall?
We did well. I mean, look, we got a written agreement from the government. It's there. Once it's there, it can't go away. And we just got to do our own due diligence now and take advantage of all of it.
Any lessons learned from all this process?
Lessons learned. I've often thought about that, but I many times I've said, why am I doing this? And I keep going back to the fact that we had to do it, and I'd do it all again.
Well, I wouldn't have signed it if we were not okay with it. We have a responsibility to rural Newfoundland, to the communities in which we operate. We have plants in this province that are the lifeblood of communities. Whether it is in Bay de Verde, Bonavista, in Corner Brook, on the Northern Peninsula, in Labrador, these communities rely on these plants. And both from an employee, a plant worker perspective, from municipal taxes to sponsoring local, sports and communities. I mean, this is one of the most significant economic drivers in rural Newfoundland. So we all have an obligation to work towards an agreement. It's never easy when you go into a regulatory body like a price-setting panel that has limitations, and collective bargaining is very difficult. And we have collective bargaining for fish prices in Newfoundland. But we ended up in a good spot. It's a fair spot. And, my view on it is that we've made significant movements towards stability over the last 2 years. Yes, we've had some serious growing pains. But when you're changing something like this, which has been one way for 20 odd years, it's institutionalized and it's new to everyone. It's new to processors. We have to do a completely different process this year now at the end of the year to a reconciliation. Harvesters will not get the full payment. They will get $3, but they may be owed more at the end of the year. So these are all big changes. There's an education, component of this. And as we go through these transition, there is going to be, road bumps, speed bumps. And I was just down to the south side of the St. John's Harbour. It is rocking with action. Boats are being loaded. Bait has been putting on. So this is a very good day for Newfoundland.
Canada has announced sanctions against some people and entities allegedly involved in the ongoing conflict in Sudan. This comes as the so-called forgotten war in the Northeast African country marks a one-year anniversary. France is hosting a humanitarian conference today to put a spotlight on the violence and suffering in Sudan. Millions there have been facing famine during the year-long fighting with no end in sight. More than 14,000 people have died and twice as many have been injured since last April. Sudan's army and its powerful paramilitary force continue to fight for control. The UN estimates nearly 9 million people have been forced to flee their homes. Well, we shouldn't get too comfortable with all this sunshine we've been having. You mentioned earlier that could be some rain and some snow later in the week.
Yeah, on Thursday. Depending on where you are, you could get either or. No amounts listed yet, but
too early,
Too early, keeping an eye on it. Tomorrow and into, not tomorrow, but the next day, Wednesday, temperatures are going to start to drop back a little bit as well. So let's take a look at that. As we move into Tuesday evening, you can see that rain sticking around there on the Avalon Peninsula and some showers through central, trying to reach the west coast there. And it looks like we could see possibly a flurry in Lab West there. And as we head through Wednesday morning, The rain moves around a little bit and tries to depart, but we see a few flurries possible there for the west coast and the northern peninsula. It looks like our temperatures for Marystown and the eastern part of the island, 12 to 9 degrees, dropping back a little bit there through central on Wednesday, between 4 and 6 degrees, 8 for the west coast, and between 4 and 8 for St. Anthony and the Straits, dropping back to freezing for Lab West, as warm as 5 for Happy Valley Goose Bay, where you could see a mix. As we move on into Thursday, you can see we're going to get more precipitation, but it looks as though there you could see for the north coast of the island, maybe for parts of the northern peninsula there as well, you could see some snow. It looks like a bit of mixing and some rain for the eastern part of the island. So we've got our temperatures here between 0 and 1 in the east, and some mixing here as well with some of this blue stuff here. That looks like that could be our snow. But up across Labrador, it looks like things will be nicer. We've got some sun and cloud in store for Lab West, for Happy Valley Goose Bay, and for the Straits, with some flurries there for the coast. Things warmer for the west coast of the island. Taking a look now at our 5-day forecast. We've got lots of precipitation in the forecast there. Things starting to drop back at 9 degrees on Wednesday to 1 Thursday, Friday, where you could see snow or rain. More rain there in store, and 7 for Saturday. For central and west, things looking like you could see a chance of precipitation pretty well for the entire week. Thursday, you've got that snow or rain at 0 degrees, temperature warming up after that. Friday looking nice, though, at double digits, some sun and cloud for western Newfoundland. As we move on to eastern Labrador, it looks like you might get 2 good days out of it, Thursday and Friday at 8 and 12 degrees respectively. Some mixing, bookending that there for you. For Lab West, you could see some flurries Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, looking nice for you folks there as well, though a little bit cooler than the east. And then on Saturday, it looks like you could see a flurry at 1 degree. And this might not get your seal of approval, Carolyn, but we've got a goose for you today. This is a gray leg goose, and they normally are in Europe and even Iceland, but this picture is from St. Anthony, and Ashley Richards took this, and I think it's pretty cute.
Oh, it's very, I was hoping you were going to say it was in Goose Bay, but.
No goose in Goose Bay. This goose made it to St. Anthony.
Nice. Yeah. I'm loving these animal pictures that you're bringing us. On Friday was that little baby seal looking through the ice, and now a goose, so it's great.
Trying to sneak the animals into the weather.
Always love it. All right, so before we finish up, as we've been talking about throughout the program tonight, tomorrow is Budget Day in Ottawa, and CBC will have special live coverage of the budget, and that coverage will be included in the first half hour of Here and Now tomorrow, and then we'll have local reaction starting at 6:30, so I hope you can join us then. Thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us.
Good night.